Welcome back to the Athlete Family Podcast, where we discuss everything performance, both for sport and in life. Today, we are getting into these zones and breaking down what exactly those zones should look like when we talk about what you should have available for you to eat on the run. The first zone.
First zone we're going to be looking at is our fridge and how to organize our fridge, make sure that it's nice and easily accessible for some foods, making it easier to grab and go with some items, and making sure that we have enough things packed for our training demands ahead.
Yeah, basically, we want to look at our fridge in three areas. And the dreaded pushback to the back of the fridge, we want to avoid that as much as possible because, it happens to all of us, or, the veggies that go bad in the crisper, things that just don't get eaten because you don't see them. So when we want to look at organizing our fridge, we want to think about what is visible first. It has to be visible. And doing, again, that inventory that we talked about last time is crucial. So knowing what's in your fridge, what needs to be eaten up, this is part of that planning process that is so crucial. So writing down, okay, I have carrots in the fridge, I have cucumbers, I need to use those up. So making sure that you're getting on top of what you have in your fridge already. I also would recommend, doing a little quick clean of your fridge every week. This is a big one. I know I get overwhelmed when I leave it too long. And if you just do a quick wipe down, see what condiments are expiring, you don't have to do the huge fridge clean out where you're taking out all the crispers and spraying them down every week. I do recommend obviously doing that every once in a while, but every week is just a quick, okay, what needs to be wiped down? What is in the fridge? What might go bad soon? And what do I need to use up?
Checking on those best before dates, like those dairy products, for sure want to check on those.
Best before dates, exactly. So, getting organized with, the preparation and just taking that audit. Then we want to say, okay, what can we put in our fuel base first? So this is the items that should be at the eye line. You should know where they are. And what we want here is basically, if you don't have time to create these recipes and, do a lot of planning, these are the ones that you can kind of go to where it's like, okay, I already have things prepped. And we'll talk about what happens when the plan doesn't go as planned. But cooked proteins are going to be essential for this. So things like chicken, beef, turkey, and this can be in ground. One of my favorite ways to have chicken is like a slow cooker or Instapot shredded chicken. So easy. You put it in with some bone broth. You keep it pretty basic. And then you can add things like buffalo sauce or I know that's a go-to buffalo chicken bowls or wraps. Also things like salsa verde, so like making taco or fajita bowls. So shredded chicken is amazing. Also having something of ground, so like ground beef, you can make it pretty basic so that you could make tacos out of it. You could make bowls. You can do the same thing with ground turkey. Salmon bites are some of my favorites too. So my kids love these. So air fryer salmon bites. So those are just some ideas of the proteins that you want to be visible. You can also have prepared proteins, things like sliced meats, trying to get, nitrate-free sliced meats available to you. Eggs, egg bites.
Staple.
Yes.
Those ones are the best. Those quick little easy egg bites that you can batch make. So good.
Yes. So proteins, what do you have visible? What can you cook ahead of time? Like I said, throw in the slow cooker, the Instapot, however you want to make it. Shredded chicken is one of my favorite go-tos because you can turn it into several meals. If you don't have time for the shredded chicken, you can also, obviously roast chickens or have roasted chicken from the grocery store. And you can do a lot with those as well. Chicken wraps. So visible.
Question for you,
Yes.
So when you are making these protein sources, let's say I cook it on a Monday for ground chicken, for example, how long would you keep that in your fridge for?
Yeah, typically the rule is you could keep it around till Thursday, Friday. Typically in our house, it will never last that long.
Yeah.
So usually you want to prep. That's why I like 2 to 3 windows in terms of like prepping, especially big things like proteins and carbs. And we'll talk about carbs next, but things like rice shouldn't be in your fridge all week. The bacteria that can accumulate over time, but having it the next day, turning it into like a fried rice, dish the next day, like those things are great. But yeah, you don't want food to sit too long. So that's why even just like 2 longer prep windows of like major things like proteins and carbs on like a, weekend day and throughout the midweek can be very beneficial.
Perfect.
So, yeah, and it's going to depend on, obviously what you cook
Yeah,
and how long it's going to
for
stay in
sure.
the fridge.
Awesome.
Okay, next, cooked carbohydrates. So, as we just talked about, things like cooked rice, potatoes, pasta obviously doesn't keep that long in the
Mhm.
fridge, but you could do if you do a big batch of pasta. One of my favorite things to do with this, actually, if you have leftovers, is to do either like a cold pasta salad where you
Ooh.
can add like tuna or some of the shredded chicken or the ground,
Mhm.
and you can add some veggies to it and just a quick dressing. So you could do pasta salad, or I know you're gonna like this one is because it's Italian, but you could do like a ziti, like a baked pasta dish.
Delicious. Pasta al forno, my
There you
favorite.
go.
Yeah. We always have that on deck at our house for sure. Even if leftovers, easy to pack for lunch the day after too. So
Yeah, so if you have
definitely my favorite.
extra pasta, like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna bake this the next day, add a protein to it, add some delicious, cheese and veggies and whatever, and then you make 2 meals out of that. So, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, pasta,
Mhm.
having some of that baked. I love to do a big sheet of roasted vegetables. So,
Awesome.
think root vegetables. So, sweet potatoes, turnips, parsnips,
Mhm.
squash, like all of those things, add some herbs to it. And then that way you can get a couple meals out of that and you can just add that with the chicken. And then you have your carbohydrates
Yeah.
covered.
Perfect.
And obviously vegetables as well with some colors. So vegetables are the trickiest thing for people. They go to the back of the fridge,
Oh
the
yeah.
produce, those crispers. So one
Oh.
of the things we do recommend for the crispers is to have it more visible and wash it right away. So
Yeah.
take I know it's a lot of work when you go grocery shopping,
Mhm.
but it's part of the process of preparation. Otherwise things go bad. So, washing all your vegetables, chopping some of them that can, last in the fridge. Things like cucumbers, you're probably going to have to, chop those
Yeah.
in real time.
Yeah.
But carrots, for example, like I'll chop up carrots and
Mhm.
then you just put them in some water and they last for days.
Yeah.
And
For
then
sure.
what else am I missing? Oh, leafy greens. So
Mhm.
having leafy greens, putting a piece of paper towel over, I'm
The
sure you've seen
trick.
this trick. But it is crucial. So putting a paper towel over the leafy greens, and again, having those visible, hopefully on the second shelf there. So
Mhm.
we have our prepped meals, our uh, cooked proteins, cooked carbohydrates, and then we have our fresh vegetables, which is like,
Mhm.
front and center. Also salad ingredients, so things like cucumbers and tomatoes and radishes or whatever you
Mhm.
put on your salads, having those visible and easy to just chop up really quickly.
Yeah. I remember in my uni house, we actually did a little experiment with this. I lived with 7 girls. So, 7 girls, we all split groceries. It worked out in the end. I know it sounds chaotic, but it worked. Um, uh, Unfortunately, a few times we would run into that crisper drawer, open it up, and
Yikes.
unfortunately, it wasn't a good look. So, a couple times we actually went grocery shopping. As soon as we came home, we washed all of our fresh produce, put it in a clear container, and stocked that right at the front of the fridge. And within 2 days, they were all gone. So it's just
Mhm.
having it easily
Visible.
accessible, convenient, and visible is
Yeah.
the key for all of these.
And washing it right away.
Yes.
Same goes with your fruit.
Yes.
If I don't wash those berries right away
No one touches
and they
them.
sit in those containers,
Yeah.
yeah, so wash them right away. I wash them with vinegar and baking
Mhm.
soda, and it makes that little like you feel like it's doing something
Science
because it
experiment.
fizzes. Exactly. And it's like it's cleaning it really well.
Yeah.
Make sure to rinse it because
Don't
I
want
did
that
not
vinegar
rinse it so
taste.
well and I got called out by my toddlers.
Oh,
Like,
no.
why does this taste funny, Mom? And I taste it, I'm like, ooh, a little baking soda
Got
on that.
some
But
vinegar.
so yeah, just make sure that you're washing things really well. There's those amazing like natural vegetable spray and fruit sprays
Mhm.
now. So however you wash your vegetables, but do it right away and get them in containers, get them visible so that you can grab and go. And next is, our full grab and go section.
Yeah.
So this is where, okay, you have some cooked proteins. Maybe you have non-cooked proteins as well, those things that you're going to cook in real time, which
Yeah.
is great. So, whether it's chicken breasts or some of the ground meat and you're just going to cook it as you go,
Mhm.
amazing. But have some of those cooked options, especially for lunches.
Yes.
That's huge.
Quick and easy.
So what about easy access to what we can grab and go? And this is going to be, kind of your snack area,
Mhm.
throwing lunches together. So some of my go-tos is, dairy products, things
Yeah.
like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, if it's kids cheese strings, baby bells, whatever that looks like, some
Oh, the
convenience
baby
cheddar
bells.
cheese. I know. It's like when it's in round form, it
It's
just some
it
reason it
tastes
tastes.
better.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Don't slice the cheese, Mom, just in baby bell form. So, yes, and then this is where you're going to see your cut up veggies. You can make homemade hummus, guacamole. If not, you could obviously do store-bought. Sliced deli meats I mentioned, things like energy balls and protein bars.
Mhm.
Maybe you made those ahead of time. So we're going to talk about some of this when it comes to the recipes and preparation section.
Yeah.
But having those things in your fridge, so it's like, okay, I can grab these. There's not, you don't open your fridge and say there's nothing to eat because things are prepped
Mhm.
already ahead of time. Prepared salad dressings and marinades. This is
That's a
huge.
big one.
So I usually make like a big batch of salad dressing at the beginning of the week. And I'll have it. So whether it's like a balsamic vinaigrette, apple cider vinegar, so that it's easy just to throw it on. And sometimes it literally looks like arugula in a bowl with no other veggies and just dressing. And I know that sounds funny, but if it has dressing, it's fine. So, but it's like, Adrian actually used to do this all the time. He's like, I know I need to get my greens in, but I just don't have time to chop vegetables. So get some greens, put some dressing on it. It's fine.
There you go.
It's not always going to look like these gourmet meals as an athlete or, busy parent in general. And it shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
We're all human. We can't prep these meals every single night.
Mhm.
So sometimes it just looks like greens in a bowl. So prep salad dressings, vinaigrettes, I would have 1 to 2. And then you can have obviously the store-bought options. So there's some great companies out there now that use things like avocado oil and real olive oil. So I would just make sure you look at the ingredient list and, try to have some of those options for you, as
Yep.
well as easy marinades. As I mentioned, the store-bought things like buffalo sauce and what else? Salsas, like even
Yeah.
just putting salsa with chicken tastes delicious. It's like
Amazing.
a, way
Wrap it
to,
up.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
way to kind of get some flavor with the chicken and not have it be just plain chicken.
Yeah.
So some add-ons in this section, we want to make sure that we're targeting those micronutrients as well. So having a large amount, I know this is going to break the bank a bit. Berries, my berry budget, as I mentioned, is
Yeah.
quite high.
You're a
because
little
we
one
go
with the
through-
berries.
Yes, my 2-year-old can eat a whole pint of raspberries. So
Starting young.
$7 later, and it's So yes, like having fruit that's visible and doing the same thing, having a
Paper towel.
on top so that it's holding the moisture and
Mhm.
making sure that they stay fresh. Also wash them right away.
Yeah.
So vegetables, cut them up, leafy greens, and having some herbs too.
Mhm.
Things like fresh thyme and rosemary. If you have a little herb garden in the summer, that's great.
Awesome.
If not, obviously you can buy it from the grocery store as well, but make sure that it's visible and that you have some plan with these things. So as I mentioned, like the roasted vegetables, I put herbs on my roasted vegetables. So like having an idea of what you're going to do with it.
Mm.
You could also make, like if you have fresh parsley, a chimichurri for your steak that goes on the grill. So there's
Delicious.
so many ways to kind of keep these ingredients live in your fridge, not to let them die in the crisper.
The forbidden crisper.
I know. I literally had to throw out rosemary. That
Yeah.
was like, I was like, oh, what a good thing. I just didn't know
Mhm.
I had it because it
Forgot it
was
was
like
there.
in the back.
Yeah.
So it happens to all of us with some of the common mistakes that we're seeing. There's nothing to eat. So we just talked about having those prepped zones just in your fridge. So making sure that you have, those proteins available, cooked proteins and non-cooked proteins. So like, what do I have for my lunches? What do I have for my dinners that I've planned the week before that I'm going to cook? And also we'll talk about this in a future pod, but having some of those backup proteins in your freezer so that when things don't go as planned, you know what's going on. Snacks hidden in drawers. So again, if you can get things as visible as possible,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
key.
It sounds silly, but a trick that I use on myself because I have to trick myself into it is putting those fruits and vegetables in clear glass containers
Clear.
just so I can see exactly what's in there and what I need to get through before the end of the week. And it always works. Sounds silly, but it's effective.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you have like leftovers, like make sure you know what you're doing with it the next day instead of just, I have some protein left, but I don't have any carb left. Like, how do we, make those meals? So, just making sure that everything's visible will help with that.
For sure.
And then, yeah, instead of only just having ingredients, make sure you have, somewhat of a plan with that. And again, it doesn't have to be these gourmet meals. You typically just want to be following, do I have a protein? Do I have a carbohydrate? And do I have some color on my plate?
Yeah.
And so having a wide variety of those colors is going to make a difference. So different vegetables, try to, try something new every week. There's amazing, food delivery produce where like, oh, I'm not typically getting radicchio in my
Mhm.
daily diet. So why don't I try that and add it into a salad? So if you can get a little bit experimental with the types of vegetables, we typically stay to the same ones over and over again, and you're limiting yourself with those micronutrients. So try to add in a couple new veggies and fruits
Mhm.
every week so that they're in the rotation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to make sure that you're not tired of the preparation, like make sure that you are, doing your best to cook a little bit ahead of time.
Mm.
Doesn't need to be 3 hours. It can be literally an hour where you're cooking, you're getting your proteins ready, you're getting some carbohydrates ready, you're having, ready to go fruits and vegetables to grab. The big takeaways with this and fridge zone is making sure that everything is visible for you, that you have a plan with what is in your fridge, that you're doing an inventory at the beginning of the week or the week before of what you have to use up, and making sure that, again, you have some snacks or some prepped meals that are already in there. So, obviously things like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are great because they're high protein.
Yeah.
You can add, some pantry items to them like nuts and seeds and granola, and then you have your fresh berries, and that's a great go-to option
Mhm.
for you.
Ready breakfast could be a snack later in the day, just quick and convenient, ready to go.
Yeah. So we want to set up our environment so that the choices are the right choices.